Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi. Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. So, I'm just going to give you a little introduction about who Sam is before we kick off and why she's here and going to join us today. So, Fabulous Sam is an accredited executive coach, supervisor, and certified fair play method facilitator. And if you don't know what that is, I will send you the link afterwards. She founded the Float Space to help mums juggle the boundaries, time, and the mental load of raising young children while thriving in their careers, which is something we all need. And she's had over 800 coaching hours as a specialist parenting and neurodiversity coach, working with over 140 clients. So it's safe to say you know what you're talking about. And you've also been featured in articles like the Telegraph, Stylist, and the Eye, and are a speaker which offers a fresh perspective of parenting, that it is not just something to survive, but it's an opportunity, which I absolutely love, Sam, because here at the 5 Hour Club, we also believe that parenting can be a place where you can really thrive if you do it right, if you can find ways to make it work for you. So we cannot wait to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, you're going to talk us through how to set boundaries that stick. Is that right? Because we all know how hard it is to set boundaries. And actually, at the 5 Hour Club, boundaries is something we talk about a lot rather than that whole work-life balance thing. So you're going to talk us through your 4-step cycle of how you define, share, hold, and flex your limits. And more importantly, how to move past that guilt in doing so. Because I don't know about you, but that's something I am guilty of, is trying to set a boundary and then feeling too bad that I just let it go. So it'd be great to know how we do that without feeling bad about it. So yeah, thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And like we've both got kids in primary school, so and 5 Hour Club, I like absolutely love what you're doing with bringing like the working day fit with that like school hours. But boundaries are even more important if you are leaving at 3 when others may not be. That's something that comes up a lot as people who have a zero point 0.6 or zero point 0.8 job but are doing a full-time job in like for less pay and in less time, making it harder.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that is one of the key reasons why boundaries are so important to sort of help with that, that quote unquote juggle, or, what else makes boundaries so important and why we should be doing
Yeah.
it?
Well, actually, a word jumped out at me earlier. You said balance, and I think the kind of sometimes the picture we get of balance is like an old-fashioned set of scales
Mhm.
with like work on one side and life as if that's like not work on the other, and trying to even just try to balance a real set of scales is like impossible. I don't think of balance like that. I like to think of balance as the ability to not fall over. So in my coaching program, I run a boundary strength program. So that's basically what I'm going to talk about today, is like working through that sort of strength program. That ability to not fall over is the
I,
balance that we're looking for.
I love that. And actually my balance is really crap outside of trying to do it in your head and, everything else. So that is a really good analogy. I'm going to hold you to that I'm going to keep thinking about, because I need that in so many ways.
Yeah,
So,
let's find out like where you need to strengthen, like just as you would if you were learning like a new workout regime. Like it is something you strengthen and like a skill you can work on. It's not just you have good boundaries or you don't. Like some people, I've had friends say to me, so when I was getting married, my one of my bridesmaids said, "Oh, you'll find the table plan really easy because you don't care what people think." And to an extent, that is true, which takes me into kind of the what boundaries are. So sometimes people think of boundaries as like that wall end, right? The ability to say no, not care what people think. When actually, if you to reframe boundaries, think of them on a spectrum from porous to rigid. You'll probably have a tendency when your boundaries aren't feeling great towards one end or the other. Like, have a think about that yourself. I feel like some of the things you've shared suggest maybe the porous end. Those of you here, like, or if you're watching back, have a think like, where do you tend to go? So do you tend to go to saying yes too quickly, people pleasing, not able to say no? Is that kind of maybe what brought you to this conversation? Or do you tend towards the other end, maybe shutting people out, just saying no to things, putting up walls kind of end? Like personally, I do tend toward that end. Like don't index very high for people pleasing, but that's not better. That's also unhealthy. What we want is healthy boundaries which flow across the middle of that spectrum. So healthy boundaries are the expectations and needs that protect your time, your energy, your well-being, and they're part of good relationships. So whether that's the relationship with your boss, with your kids, with your partner, or with yourself, healthy boundaries are a really important part of a healthy relationship, and they won't disrupt a healthy relationship. Like the will, if you've got a toxic boss, like boundaries aren't going to fix that. They're not the fix. It's a whole different conversation. But in a healthy relationship, boundaries are good for it.
Wow. Okay. That's really, even just that difference is really good to think about, because I really struggle to set boundaries in lots of different circumstances, but particularly with my kids. And I guess I would probably go towards that more porous end where I sort of, want them to be happy, and I, don't want a hard time, and I don't want the meltdown. So I tend to sort of be a bit softer in that sense. Whereas there's other people that I'm a lot, try to stick firmer boundaries on, because I feel like it's really important to be sort of that rigid side. And I don't really know where that middle ground is and how you do it in a way which is a positive thing to sort of, and I do notice that when I'm trying to set boundaries, and if I'm not doing it in the right way, the relationship is definitely being affected. So yes, it would be great to know how to do that without that impact, I guess.
Yeah, it's really the tendency to jump to the other end. If you feel like you've not been holding great boundaries with your kids, you might feel like, I need better boundaries. In my relationship where it feels okay to be rigid, and then you're more rigid than you would like to be. I'm finding that flex in the middle. So I have a 4-step system in the strength program, so to think through, so we can think through that together. So defining or redefining, because actually you've already got boundaries, you're already communicating them, they might just not be like very helpful to you right now. So, and there's 2 ways you can go with this with defining. You can either go, right, looking over the last week, where was the resentment, right? Resentment is the clue that your boundaries are not so much working. So sometimes that's like literally getting your diary out and being like, what happened in the last week? Mine, the one I've been working on a lot the last year is like feeding people, right? Feeding the kids, feeding your family. And you mentioned fair play earlier. I hold the meals, weekday meals and groceries. And if you know fair play, you'll know what that means. But yeah, I felt like we should all sit down for dinner. So that should is another clue, this resentment. And it was just feeling like, oh my gosh, why do these kids need to eat 3 times a day? Hate it. But actually zooming out, okay, what matters is it matters that we eat together as family to us. Like sometimes defining can be a family sort of activity when it comes to things like this, but no one said that had to be every day. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, actually that wasn't my boundary. That was like, I don't know, like some sort of should societal thing sneaking in. The other way you can go is if you had a magic wand, what would you want it to be like? Like humans have a negativity bias. Sometimes it's easier to go like, where's the resentment? Like that might be the easiest way to get this like defining bit up. So you're probably already thinking about moments of resentment in your week as I talk about this. Once you've got that and you're like, okay, want to make a shift here, it'd be better. Like, maybe it's I'm running out the door of the office and I'm barely making the train home to get back for nursery. Like there's a boundary that's not really working for me. The next step is then sharing. So the boundary might be, I'm going to hold the 10 minutes before I'm supposed to leave the office as clear time. I'm not going to have meetings that run up to, say, 3 p.m, whatever time it is. Because you don't want to be getting off the phone. It's literally impossible to get off the phone and leave the house in the same moment. So make it easy for yourself. So if you're going to protect that, you need to tell people. You might be telling your colleagues, or it might be it's in your calendar. Clear is kind, to quote Brene Brown, like queen of all of these things. I once had a client figure it all out. They were returning to work, head of a team, and they said to me, well, do I need to tell my team? And they were head of the team. They were in a position of kind of power where they probably could have got away with doing stuff without telling them. But it's like, yes, you can't expect people to respect your boundaries if they don't know they exist. Like that might even be some of the resentment you see. Be like, why are they not understanding that I have to pick on my kids? Like, or if they don't know, it's totally fair that they're not. Which gets next to the next step, holding. this can often be the one that people tell me is hardest. Like figuring out what you want, sharing it, sure, but actually in the moment, holding it can be harder. But I cannot stress this enough. Practicing holding it and sitting with the discomfort, like working through it, like is just so important. Because if you don't, you're communicating a different boundary. You're communicating that it's okay. You know, if you don't want to reply to emails late at night, don't reply to them. If you reply to them, you're communicating that you are available at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, holding them. Sometimes if holding them is hard, it's about going back. Have you shared them? Have you defined them right?
Like it's
Yeah.
a cycle, so it's, you know, it's not a rigid line, it's a process.
No, it's a
We go
process.
round and we can go back again if needs be.
Because if you're trying to hold something you don't actually really value or really care about, isn't important to you, like it's going to be hard to hold. Like, don't make life hard. Oh, you've got young kids, like it's hard enough. And then, although I've just said the most important thing there is hold it, step four is flex. And this is about doing it in a way like building up that muscle, building up that strength, right? You wouldn't walk into an advanced yoga class having never done yoga and bend yourself into a pretzel. It doesn't work like that. You've got to build up. So healthy boundaries aren't walls. They're going to flex with circumstances. You can choose in the moment to flex them. If you're flexing them all the time, that's probably not a boundary anymore, and that's go back around to redefine, share, hold. Like maybe that's a clue that that's not right for you. It might be not right in your workplace. You might need to do something different to work around it. But yeah, like flexing sometimes is what's in that healthy space as well.
Okay, and so how do you, when you're flexing it, then do you sort of go back a little bit but then hold it again the next time? Is it a case of, you know, I'm going to let you off this once, but the next time we need to remember and almost redefine it maybe with the person, or I'm not having to, you know, I can do a meeting to 3 p.m. today, but I won't be able to do it again next week. Let's not make this a regular thing.
Yeah, so exactly that. It's communicating that you are like flexing. So like you said, it might be, so like for example, next week I have scheduled to see a client at 3 p.m. one day, and I've arranged that my husband is definitely picking up the kids that day. He actually picks them up almost every day, so which is great. But he knows that I'm not available at that time, so I've said we can do this week because it works for both our diaries. But I'm not normally available at this time.
Mm-hmm.
The same as like in the workplace, you might say, actually, I can make that thing. It might be like, you know, there's an important client meeting and they want you to work. And actually, if your circumstances do allow you and you do want to, it's okay, but you might just need to reiterate that you don't normally work past whatever time, but you're able to this time because you recognize it's really important, or you've arranged extra childcare or whatever it is. It's that communicating that you are flexing.
Okay, so that's really helpful. So just go back, we've got that define what it is, then you share it with whoever's it needs to be shared with, whether that's your boss or your team or your children, your husband,
Yes.
your partner, and then you hold it as best you can to sort of make sure that, and sit with that discomfort, which I think is a bit that I find difficult. And then you can flex if it's, you know, you're holding it and for whatever reason it's a one-off, you can flex it back.
Yeah.
So it sort of goes, I guess, between that chorus and sort of rigid side. So it's not
Yeah, in the
just
middle, that help. So like my kids love to eat in front of the telly, right? As is evidenced by the amount of food that I cleaned out from the sofa the other day. But it's not I try and keep an eye that like we are sitting down around the table as much as we want to. Like, we've defined that as a value that's important. But you know, it's Friday and we've bought fish and chips. We might have that in front of the telly, and that's okay. It's just doing it deliberately. And sometimes it's sitting with the discomfort of the protest when you try and drag them to the kitchen. But trying to figure out, like, before you try and set and hold a boundary, if every day I was trying to get them to go to the kitchen and be like, oh, you can sit on the sofa, it's going to be confusing for them.
yeah.
And it's saying, it's okay, you're going to protest, and then this is what's going to happen.
And then you're going to get what you want. Is that sort of having, I guess, that consistency, which, you know, children need, but also adults need that too, don't they? They
Yeah.
need to know that you are not available during that school pickup time. Or, you know, your children need to know that they typically don't eat in front of the TV. This is a one-off. And that, I think that's one of my biggest struggle with feeling guilty, in the sense I've tried to, you know, put that boundary in, and then I've sort of gone, oh, okay, mate, it's fine today. I can't be bothered to, you know, deal with
Yeah.
it or whatever. My question then would be sort of, at what point are we putting these boundaries in? Because one of my biggest things is knowing, you know, maybe you've let them eat in front of the TV up until this point, and then you've decided you've got a new sofa and you don't want them to sit on the sofa anymore. When do you put that in? Is it okay to introduce new boundaries? At what point do you do it? Do you do it in the moment when you realize, oh no, I don't want them to sit on the sofa? Or do you do it, you know, ahead of time as much as you can? At what point should you be setting those boundaries?
It depends, probably a bit both. If you, where you can share these things in advance, not in the moment, I guess that works well with kids and with your colleagues, right? It's this clear is kind bit. And I guess some of this will get into the kind of guilt, discomfort, what's going on there a bit. But it's a cycle and it's always happening. And you're all like, life is always changing, especially with young kids as well, like how quick they develop at work, like things change all the time. So it's just that checking in, having that regular check-in of like, is resentment building up? And if there's an event or a hook, right? So really good opportunity for this, comes up a lot, is in returning to work. So after parental leave, such an opportunity to like reset how you're doing things. Like that's why it's really good time for things like coaching and reflecting and doing things differently, because you are new. It's the same principle as like a new sofa. Like that's the conversation hook, right? We've got a new sofa rule, right? So where you've got a hook, that's really useful. The season's changing. You've got to wear sun cream if you're going outside. I feel like I've just got kids on the brain right now.
Okay, so let's flip it around. So if we think about, okay, we can do it with our kids. Can we think of an example? Does anybody who's watching got an example of a boundary that they want to hold or they're struggling to hold? I know that I've had one in the past, and I still do, around being available after you've finished work, right? So I work a 5-hour work day, I pick my children up. I don't want to be emailing. I don't want to be on meetings. I don't want to take calls after that point. And I definitely don't really want to be doing it after bedtime. Sometimes I have to, but you know, my boundary is that I'd rather not. And at weekends too. So how would you go about sticking that boundary where somebody asks you to do a regular call at 5 p.m. You are technically meant to be working at 5, you know, until 5. Maybe you don't work a 5-hour work day and you work till 5, but you have your kids there, you've had to pick them up and you're doing the juggle. How do you say no to that meeting at 5 o'clock every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday, that's going to have to be a negotiation of like, what can work for this? So really depends on kind of who that stakeholder is. Are they your boss? Are they external? Is it like a time zones challenge? So is there someone else who could do it in your team? Is that an option? Because is your 5 p.m. in, like, if you cannot be available at that time, you're gonna have to find like a workaround for that. Like, what are you assuming as well? Because it's gone in and you might be feeling like, oh, I'm gonna have to say no to that. Oh, I can't do it. They're gonna, whatever you think they might be thinking about you if you say no, that you can't do it. Try and get under those assumptions too, because it might have gone in for 5 p.m. but it might not even need to be at 5 p.m. So it might be that at that first stage of sharing, being like, actually, I don't work past 5 p.m. on a Wednesday. Got some options. We've got someone else who could take it, or could we look at another time to make it work? Like that might be the point where you sort it out. It kind of gets into the feelings bit of, like, you asked about sort of guilt being the thing that makes boundaries crumble, like making it really hard. And I think one of the most useful reframes with guilt is checking in, have I actually done something wrong? Saving the guilt for when you've actually done something like objectively wrong. And
That's a really
checking,
good point.
is it something else? Is it discomfort? In which case, the only way is through, right?
Sure.
Sitting with the discomfort, and maybe start easy, right? Start holding a boundary with someone you don't really care about, like, or start with a smaller boundary, make it as easy as possible for yourself, and grow your comfort zone. It will grow if you keep doing it. is it pressure? Is it like societal expectations? Like, name it. Is there like, do you feel like you should pick up your kids every day at 3? Do you actually have to in your life? Like, often as mums, we feel like we should be at the school gate at 3. Like, if you want to be at the school gate at 3, like, that's fine, but just checking in with that. Is it actually a pressure and expectation from outside that's making you feel some discomfort?
Absolutely. No, that's a really good point about, yeah, what is causing you to feel that way, because then we can override it if needs be, right? And then we can make sure that we're holding that boundary more firmly. We've just had a comment from somebody who said that they remove work emails from their phone so that they're only accessible during work hours, and they have hard boundaries with their boss over when they can make a special allowance for a call. So I guess, I mean, that sounds like a couple of really good tips for how she's able to hold that boundary firm at work to say, this is when I'm accessible. I can't make calls during this point. You know, I can only do it if needs be. And I think that's something that you have to sort of think about, especially when you are returning to work, maybe after maternity leave or you're starting a new role. What is it that's important to you, and what are the things that you want to set a boundary of from the beginning? I know of other people who share, you know, put in their calendar when they're doing the school pickup. So, you know, they're blocking out so meetings can't be booked in during that time, things like that. Is there any other sort of handy tips and tricks around setting boundaries that you've got, or you've heard from other
Yeah.
clients of how to do that both at home and at work?
Yeah, I think at that hold stage, like making it easy for you to hold it, right? So removing work emails from your phone, that's going to help because they're not just there when you open your phone. That makes it easy for you. It's not, some people think that like things should be hard. They don't have to be. Like, how can we make this easy to hold this habit? So is that the one we talked about earlier, like getting out of the office, like just giving yourself a bit of buffer room so you can leave on time? Or is it, yeah, phone notifications are a big one, like them not pulling you in. And there's, I know we all need our phones for lots of things, but there's all sorts of apps you can get now to block like certain apps during certain hours. I'm going to try and experiment. Someone shared one with me. I think I do want to block the work ones. I've got a lot of notifications off, but then I go check. So is it having an out of office message or your signature communicating your hours? Like making it easy for you to not want to do the thing, especially when it's those things like working, if you're feeling like you really need to show up more and do more hours, work on your non-working day, things like that. Like, what is it that's pulling you to work on your non-working day? Like, so how could you leave in a way that makes you feel like you can come back? Is there actually some stuff that needs a point person when you're like, it's really common to come back from mat leave and have a non-working day or be using annual leave or something to have a phased return? Yeah, how can you make it feel easier? Like, what's the discomfort? Like, figure it out.
I think you're right, and it goes back to that point, doesn't it, where we feel that we have to survive the single parenthood. We have to, get through it. It has to be the hardest thing. But actually, often that is sort of societal pressures, that's other people, that's those shoulds, where you feel like you should be doing things. But we need to be, looking at this of how can we make this easier for us to be able to thrive, to be able to, set things like, for an example from my point of view is, self-care was a big one. I was not holding the boundary of the self-care time that I needed to have, every day, a bit of movement time to be able to then show up for myself and my family every day. I was sort of letting it slide, and I was making it hard for myself. I was making all of these excuses of why I wasn't getting the self-care. And actually, it did come down to me not holding that time and that space to make sure I would get out and go for a run. So I think we have to sort of start reframing it and think about what is important and why we're doing that. And that goes to we're sort of asked this as maybe the final question is, somebody asked, how do you show that ruling then whilst prioritising and protecting your kids and caring responsibilities? And I think that's a question where, how do you do that in a way where you've got the thing that is the most important, which is your children, but how can they not it not override everything, and do it so that maybe your work or your partner doesn't feel like they're being pushed aside and not thought about?
So I think when you are staying in that healthy boundaries space with everyone, that is going to help you be calmer and more productive and avoid that overwhelm that comes with not having those things. So we know that working mums are the most productive people in the workplace. There's like been research on this, right? So if you can protect your boundaries, stay healthy in all of those spaces, you will do the great job you want to do. You've sort of got to trust the process a bit. Like, you'll show up well at work, like you'll show up well in your relationship. It's when things aren't going well that you end up sort of dropping balls or falling over, whichever metaphor you're going with. So there's a bit of trusting the process. If there is a real problem, like if say the job you've got is too big for the hours it's in, which is not uncommon, like that is a problem to fix. No amount of productivity or boundaries is going to fix that problem. So that's about identifying that and working through that in your workplace. But no, if you can protect, whether, like as you said, protecting that time for self-care, like I love when I see your videos you get in the sea, because it prompts me to go get in the sea.
You're doing more of that than me at the moment.
That motivates me. Whatever it is that motivates you to do the little bit of self-care that keeps you well, like if you sort of trust the process. If you're assuming in your head this idea that if you hold these boundaries, that people are going to have negative perceptions of you, checking in with that as well. If you think, if I had a team member that had healthy boundaries and looked after themselves, looked after protected time for work, protected time for strategic thinking, that's often one that comes up, you'd probably respect them. You wouldn't be thinking they were like letting the organisation down. So there's a bit of trust the process there, rather than try like the what we're often trying to do, which is be more than we have to all angles of our life.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to your point, isn't it? It's about how you protect that energy. You have a certain amount of time, you have a certain amount of energy, and it's about using it and protecting it in a way where you can then be productive and show up for, in every part of your life. Well, thank you so much, Sam. We are coming up to time, so we are going to leave it there. For anybody who is listening, I want to send a few things that you shared and thought about just to take with you in your next week is, think about what you said, think about maybe a bit of resentment or where you would like to wave a magic wand in the last week, and see if that's something where you can look to change your boundaries. And also try something easy. You said start with an easy boundary first of all, and this could be at home or work or do both. Go and set an easy boundary for yourself. See if you can define it, you can share it, hold it, and then when it's held, do a little bit of flex and let us know how you get on, because it'll be good to know that boundaries are being set and they are being held in a way that is helping us thrive. So thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Before I let you go, can you tell us where we can find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So here, my business is at the Float Space, the Float Dot Space, a spa for your mind. So I see it. Like, coaching is such a rare, peaceful space to sort out all those thoughts and just be like, this isn't working about this boundary, or like whatever it is. So there I share things on all things boundaries, mental load, time, my own experience as a working mum. At the moment, if you comment scripts on any post, pick one at random or one about boundaries, my robot will send you 10 boundary scripts and some AI prompts as well for figuring this out, that making that sharing and holding a bit easier. They're all around the kind of back to school autumn season and talking about Christmas, which will be here imminently. A great opportunity right now. Don't need to be setting those Christmas boundaries, but start thinking about, defining them, like what's important to us as a family as we get, because that season's going to hit like before we know it. So comment scripts for those scripts if you want them. Feel free to message me your boundary questions. And it's been, thank you so much for having me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I'll put all the links in all of our show notes, which will also be reshared so you can rewatch the whole thing on our YouTube channel at 5 Hour Club too. So thank you again, Sam. And any questions about boundaries, go and see Sam, because I still have no clue. But thank you. You have helped a lot. I'm going to try with some of my easy ones this week and let you know.
Yeah, let me know how you get on.
All right. Take care, Sam. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.